Do you have any idea on any more of the details?
I don't, and I wish I did for you. But I don't right now.
All right. I just
apologize for that.
I did know that they were having a meeting today to give more information on it. And am I correct? It's an antigen test, and it's almost like a pre-test where you would administer it with permission to someone who is showing COVID-like symptoms. And if it comes back positive, then the recommendation would then to go get the test, correct?
Correct, to go get that PCR test or that rapid PCR test. Even if individuals had a negative antigen test, that Binax Now test, if they were still displaying those symptoms that we were concerned about, then I'm sure nurses are going to be using their clinical judgment, their skills, those protocols that are going to be put in place, that even if someone's symptomatic and tests negative, then they should be out of the school environment, the in-person school environment. Yeah.
Okay. My next question is also related to testing. And it is more around, okay.
I think it's the feedback from Ben's computer there.
It's more around any efforts that the town is making to try to get a testing site in Hampshire County. I know that Representative Dom has really spearheaded that and has been pushing for it since August. So I'm wondering if the town is reaching out to Governor Baker as well. It's right now in Hampshire County, Holyoke Community College is the closest, really. Unless you're affiliated with UMass. So
that's a great question, and one that I'm really encouraged by. I know that the Western Mass mayors and managers, town managers, officials had a meeting with Secretary Sutters about how important of an issue it was regarding testing. I do know that there's support with Joe Comerford and also Representative Dome in terms of this area. And I know that I have been working really actively trying to problem solve this and strategize in terms of how can we get increased testing density in this area, partnering with other areas that are already doing testing in the area like UMass or Cooley, but also what's our accessibility and possibilities of maybe getting mobile testing here in Amherst, and what would that look like, and certainly what are the specialty populations that we might want to focus on, whether it's our students and teachers. But I think that there's opportunities for many different ways that we can go for that, and something that I know myself and other regional health department directors have been working on as well.
Excellent. I also know that there was an update late yesterday afternoon from the CDC, correct? This was on the vaccine, which we're all very happy to hear.
Yeah.
Can you share any information about that?
So in terms of local boards of health change in the direction that we've been given, or our directives, not so much. Really, the CDC is releasing guidance and advising state departments of health to give further guidance to local boards of health. So all that information is really kind of coming down the pipeline to our individual areas of specialty, so that way it can be executed in a uniform fashion as well as we can, and create equity, right? The health equity that I know is all important to us.
And is the town looking to do any community education around vaccines?
You know, I think that is definitely an area that we can work on as more information comes out, and I will take note of that, Jean.
Krista, do you have any questions around the contact tracing?
Yeah, last time we met, you got me thinking a lot about this clinically positive situation, where if we have students who, for whatever reason, cannot get a COVID test, but we're assuming they're clinically positive.
Mhm.
I'm curious about how that plays out in contact tracing. And I'm curious how a school nurse would discover a student is clinically positive. Like, what kind of a timeline would that look like? So I have a student in my class. I think they're showing symptoms. I send them to the nurse. The nurse says, go get a test. We find out that for whatever reason, the family is not going to go get a test. How does that information come back to the classroom in order for us to know who has been a close contact if we are going to consider this person clinically positive? I guess that's a big bundle of a question, but maybe you can untangle that for me.
Well, we'll do the best that we can, Krista, right? In terms of untangling that. So I think the primary question there and topic is really, how do we sort this out? How do we communicate valuable and necessary information back down the pathway, but while also respecting confidentiality and doing it in a professional manner that's respectful of everyone involved and how everyone might be affected by that. The school nurses are going to be doing the school student-based contact tracing if they're in the learning area. And then they will look at the protocols and policies that have been put in place in terms of contact tracing for those rooms, for those school rooms. And then based off, the school department will determine messaging with me in terms of what's the best way to get that message out. If a family wants to test or not, the recommendations would be the same in terms of stay home, be at home, quarantining or isolating from others, not going out into the community. And then certainly if you start to feel ill, seek medical treatment. Where it changes is if that patient or that child or student is that positive case, and if at that time contact tracing would have to occur. So I know that's not just a challenge in the school arena. I know that's also a challenge in the other workforce places as well, in terms of how do we really strategize around those identified possible gaps to create a safe environment for everybody.
Thank you for your thinking on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Emma, this might not be too interesting for you. Maybe it is. We want to switch over to the ventilation, the HVAC portion of the show.
Yeah, my dad would be proud.
So Ben, can you give us an update?
Yeah, so testing up through phase 3 has been completed, and now we're kind of at the most boring part of that process, which is the putting the data into a consumable form. And I believe a rough draft was sent. It was supposed to have been sent this afternoon to Mike.
Is this from Nexus?
No, from us. We got the it went out this afternoon for Mike, so it should be disseminated sometime next week, I believe.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, Nexus sent you and Rupert the report, in engineer speak, and then you translated it into something that was more digestible, correct?
Yep, we put it into human talk. Yeah.
Okay. So we had requested that a copy of the actual report be sent to us, to APEA. Is it possible to get that?
I believe so, yeah. I think that's in with my little packet. Yes, we still have the raw data too.
All right, that would be really helpful if we could have that. Can you give any updates on, I don't want to put you on the spot, but there were upstairs rooms at Crocker Farm that there were concerns about. Is there any information you can share about those? Those were ACH issues, correct?
Yep. And so all but one of them were basically, we brought them up to the above 4 without assistance, but still put a purifier in. By without assistance, I mean
Right.
without the additional air purifier. And then there was another one, a 4th room, I believe, up there that we put a second air purifier in, because it was like we checked it once, did a calculation, checked it another time, did a calculation. One was slightly above, one was slightly below. So we erred on the side of caution and put.
Thank you. Was there any indication in the report as to what the reason was for those particular rooms having low ACHs?
No,
They haven't figured out why.
that's kind of like it was sort of left up to our specialist to sort of figure that part. But it's basically it was basically a mechanical issue initially.
Can you go into a little more detail?
Yeah. So
I love this stuff. So
right. It's compelling. It's very compelling. I tell folks that. They don't believe me. But yes, so basically it was like the proper amperage wasn't getting to the motor. It's essentially, it's a little more complicated than that.
Right,
but that's
right.
the way to explain it.
And just to clarify, these were the large classrooms upstairs, not the smaller rooms that are across the hall from them, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember which classroom number it was that was still a little bit iffy?
No, I was just trying to remember the numbers. If I'm looking at them, it's to the left.
Okay.
I don't know if that's helpful.
It is. Yeah, thanks. Let's see. And any other updates on ongoing maintenance that you can report on?
Yeah, so we've been we kind of ran into an engineering snag with doing the smaller breakout rooms in the ILC rooms. They were the timeout rooms, I believe we call those. So we're kind of re-engineering a couple spots to try to make it like the most physically safe. So that's about where we're at with that. So that work is kind of continuing daily.
When do you think do you have a timeline for those?
Not exactly. I have a wish date to be done.
Okay, that's helpful. What's the wish date?
Prior to the break, so by next Friday, we should at least have a plan we can lay out by next Friday. But I'm trying to think, the whole picture. In a couple of them, we'll have the work completely done by then. But
right. How many spaces are we talking about that would need to be reconfigured?
Oh, the ones we're at work. There are two key places that we have to kind of rework things, and I believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total. That's what we needed to address.
So the 2 key spaces, are those at Crocker or Fort River? Where are those?
One is Crocker was actually a little better off there, but one Wildwood, one Fort River. It has a lot to do with ceiling clearance and what we can and can't move up there.
Yeah.
Can you go into a little more detail? Like, I'm just trying to get a sense of exactly the scope of the work that needs to be done.
So it actually might come down to getting an entirely new unit, so what we're doing to kind of like to be time expedient is we've pre-ordered. We're just assuming that there's no way we can make the units we have work in those 2 spaces. So we've pre-ordered those units. And then aside from that, we're kind of trying to figure out how, so you need more than just physical clearance. You need air space clearance up top too, just so that we're not overheating things, those sorts of. And then in one of them, there's a access to power issue. And so we have to actually get it powered up safely. And so we're not interfering with anything.
So we're talking about multiple subcontractors, I should say, coming in or no?
No, this can actually all be done
in-house.
Yeah.
Okay. I know. Being married to a contractor, you never want to ask somebody for a definite end.
Right.
Date of completion.
But happens to never give deadlines. Yeah. Or never give deadlines.
But we do want to. We want to get an kind of an idea of about when we're talking.
Right.
So you'll have a plan by end of next week, correct? And starting of the projects?
Well, they're kind of underway at the moment. So that it's more figuring out the contingency plan and whether or not we need to enact it everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but more than just the two phases.
Is this kind of like the book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie? So if you start doing one thing, then you find out you have to do something else. Is that what's happening? Okay. Say no more.
It's like remodeling in an old house.
Yep. Say no more.
Same thing. Yeah.
All right.
To follow up on the Nexus report, this was the first time the middle school and half of the high school or more have been tested. I'm just curious for an executive summary of how those spaces are looking. I know we want to see the full raw data because Jean and I will geek out over that for a very long, embarrassingly long amount of time. But we're curious, what's the feel of those spaces?
I mean, I guess the best assessment that I could give is our impression, which was better than anticipated, and more well. I'd say both schools were better than anticipated, but I was largely shocked by some of the numbers in the middle school. So I guess we've kept up the middle school better than I
Okay. So any remediation that needs to be done in your estimation?
Nothing major at the middle school. There are possibly some issues in areas. I guess they're considered phase 3 areas in the high school side.
Just are these tweaks? I mean, we're not without seeing the report, it would be hard to determine exactly what needs to be done. But are we talking about just tweaking so that we can get the air exchange rates up?
Right.
Or having to do major stuff?
No, it's more tweaking to get the optimal number rather than like they would be in other times they'd be great numbers.
Right.
But that we're looking for perfect right now. So
right, we're looking for between 4.5 and 6, correct?
Yep.
I guess so. Once we have the report and we look at it, we understand, we digest. We'll need to get Nexus back in. Do you already have a date scheduled for when Nexus is going to come back in to look at any of the tweaks that are being done?
No, not yet. They're not able to schedule anything right now.
Okay.
They're having some issues on that.
And so this would not be work that could be in-house.
No. Well, so far what we've seen, it can all be done in-house.
Right. So what would you need Nexus to do?
Just as far as retesting, to
Okay.
see what our final numbers are.
So there's no date that we can get. Are we talking like January, February?
It's tough. They're kind of like behind the curve for themselves. Fairly well in demand in this part of the state.
Fairly well in demand everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's unfortunate. All right. Anything else you can share with us, Ben?
That's about it. Oh, so we also put all the HEPA filters into all of our spaces. That's the awesome side. And that's really about it as far as in terms of like air and all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. I am continuing to work at the state level on indoor air quality. That's my long-term, the long goal down the road, but increasing funding for infrastructure for buildings because I don't know. I think I asked way back when what the per pupil spending amount was for under facilities and maintenance, and my guess is it's pretty low. It's usually pretty low for school districts, and it's unfortunate because, as you know, if you spend the time and the money on routine maintenance, it saves a lot of money in the long term.
Absolutely, a lot of the work we're doing now could have been done a while ago cheaper. That's the nice way that I can put it.
Yeah. Is the subcontracted electrician still working in the buildings, or is that work done?
No, it's another one of those working on an old house situation. So we kind of every corner we go around, we find something new.
You find something new.
And he's been working in the kitchen.
Just for anybody that's listening, do you know the dates of when each of the building dates of each of our school buildings? I think it would be interesting to know that, as well as if the blueprints have ever been fully updated.
Yeah, so okay. I can give you all of that for a second. So
Good. I know we're geeks. Sorry, Emma, we're geeks on this stuff.
the stuff I love. So middle school in Wildwood, I did not realize that they broke ground in the same year, which is 67. And then 71 is Fort River. And then you have all the different phases of the high school, like the 60 something odd. The 60s were a great time for us here in Amherst, apparently. A lot of growth. And then you had the 92 update, I believe, to the high school. And then Crocker, early 60s, and then the 2002 update. But yeah, both of those things came up this week. That's the only reason I'm a little geeked about that. And then we also, 4 years ago, had all of the prints scanned, and myself and Mr. Roy Clark have been, they were all scanned in one file. So we've been kind of like itemizing every little section, the
Right.
from the electrical, from the physical.
So are they completely updated at this point? Because I know the high school had some modifications done.
Yeah, so the prints are, for the high school, I'd say 90+% updated. Little tweaks here and there. That's kind of the minutia we're delving into right now.
All right. And do you know if the town has updated copies of the blueprints as well?
I'm not sure what the most recent version they have.
It would be good to and helpful to find out. I'm speaking more from a safety standpoint, for that it's just helpful to have accurate blueprints of the buildings.
Yeah. We've also been going through, speaking of safety, going through and redoing updating floor plans. Like we had doors that it's marked one way on a floor plan and marked another way on the door. So if we were to call and if there was some emergency and we needed to tell someone where to go, they would go to the wrong place. So that's
where I was going with this. Making sure that for our public safety officials that they have copies of updated, so that they're looking at the same thing that you're looking at.
Right. And thank you for saying that publicly, because I think half of my staff has thought that we were crazy for the last 2-3 weeks.
No, it's very important. It's pretty vital to the health and safety of the public school buildings.
Absolutely.
All right. I see it's 4:46. Emma, again, thank you so much for a Friday. And for all that you do. We're very grateful for the work that you put in, and then always grateful for all of the time and effort that you put in, both as a school committee member and as our assistant facilities director. You do an amazing job.
Thank you very much.
So have a good weekend, everybody.
You too.
You too.
And I suppose this is the part I'm supposed to stay on and look for questions to answer.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Ben. So thank you again.
All right. No problem. Thank you. And, all right.
There were no questions on the YouTube side.
Perfect. So we can end this now then.
All right, will do.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too.